This is the moment every fan waits for. The countdown's over. The road to kickoff has begun.
Play is here to stay.
I'm not going to name names, Kevin.
From win totals to player props, from division races to MVP debates, we've got eyes on every camp and data feeding 24/7, breaking down every angle across the league. Every pick, every edge, every line that matters. SportsGrid. Your road to kickoff starts now.
He is not Derrick Henry. He is not one of those special backs in that sense. A really good one that's been outstanding in fantasy for quite some time. But you can also hear the buzz recently about it being more of a split backfield. And if that's so, then Aaron Jones' value takes a hit, Jordan Mason's value goes up, and there's an opportunity at some point, if Aaron Jones misses time, where you can see Jordan Mason take that backfield over.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
It's a safe shot, pin high left with a 6-iron. And then this is where JJ enters the fray again and hits this like slice 5-iron. That was just, I mean, it curved probably a good, 30, 40 feet, almost flies in the hole. And it was just a crazy shot because nobody would ever really try to hit that type of slider.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
An HRR, parlay, a combo that you want to do. I generally prefer away teams and players that hit at the top of the lineup or in the top half, just because you are guaranteed just that extra plate appearance here or there. How many times, throughout the season, I've been like, listen, if this guy gets on, he will have one more at bat in the 9th inning. And if he doesn't get there, there. If you just take them that place higher, they're going to be in a spot to cash that bag.
Pro Baseball Today, only on Sport.
Good morning. Welcome to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. I'm Craig Mish. Great to be back with you as we get ready for a Thursday edition of the show, and we got a lot to cover. Lots in the latest of sports news in terms of business today on the show today. We're going to talk about the evaluations of different franchises. Of course, yesterday, looks like the Minnesota Twins are going to continue to maintain their ownership. We're going to bring in Rob Linehan of Sportico, go over the very latest. In addition, Matt Latovsky weighs in on some National Football League action. We're getting ready for college football as well. The Miami Hurricanes open up their season against the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Manny Navarro from The Athletic will be with us as well. We are action-packed, locked, and loaded on this edition of the show. So let's get right to it. We'll start off with the sports betting news of the day, which comes out of Cleveland, Ohio. You may remember there's 2 players that are currently being investigated right now by Major League Baseball for some improprieties in terms of their pitches and their selection and potentially micro-betting allegations. As of right now, the state of Ohio is going to take a deeper look into this. The Ohio Casino Control Gaming is conducting their own investigation into suspicious sports betting activity. This is surrounding the same 2 players that baseball is investigating as well. Luis Ortiz, Emmanuel Clase, both pitchers who were on paid leave through August 31st. And they're undergoing a current probe right now is Major League Baseball. This is an integrity monitoring firm that's detecting an unusual spike in wagers, and the OCCC confirmed that they're having their own independent investigation in the state of Ohio too. Stay tuned. The Guardians, by the way, still in the playoff hunt in Major League Baseball as well. Speaking of teams being sold, the Twins are staying with the Pollard family, but the Boston Celtics, they're being sold by, right now, what looks like a record number in a National Basketball Association franchise at $6.1 billion. The NBA Board of Governors on Wednesday approved the sale of the Celtics to Bill Chisholm, who's a private equity investor. It's the largest price ever paid for an American sports team, not just the NBA, but for sports as well. Meanwhile, Brian Flores, who used to coach the Miami Dolphins, is now defensive coordinator in a federal appeals court, has ruled that he and other black coaches can pursue their racial discrimination claims against the NFL, and several teams in court, they rejected the league's arbitration process as unfair. It upheld a lower court's decision, citing serious issues with the NFL's arbitration system, which allows Roger Goodell, the commissioner, to serve as the arbiter in the process. The National Football League also has decided that Rashee Rice could potentially play the first few games of the season. He's going to have his disciplinary hearing with the NFL on Tuesday, September 30th in New York. So that means he is eligible to play in the first 3 games and maybe even the first 4 weeks of the NFL season before any discipline is incurred. You may remember in the 2024 offseason, he had a role in a multi-car crash in Dallas, allegedly leaving the scene of an accident. With the NFL preseason coming this week, we all thought that we'd see another outstanding performance potentially from quarterback Shedeur Sanders. It looks like that is on hold. As of right now, Sanders very questionable to play in this week's game. Kevin Stefanski spoke this morning about the oblique issue that Sanders has, all but ruling him out in week 2 of the NFL preseason.
Yeah, felt it early, I think warming up, and then felt it throughout individuals, so took a look at it. If it's a right guard, you can play through that. When it's a quarterback, you kind of need that muscle to throw. So unfortunately, going to put him down for a little bit here. We'll treat it day to day and see how he responds, but want to be smart because he's a thrower, so you can't push that thing.
It's such a critical point in your evaluation of each of these quarterbacks. How does it affect your evaluation of the quarterbacks?
Yeah, listen, injuries stink for all these guys. They don't want to miss a rep for any reason, Tony, but there's a way to continue to prepare, continue to get better, even when you're not getting those reps because of injury.
Does this mean that Dylan will start the game on Saturday?
We got to see how he does today and gets through. So not ready to say for sure.
What about Pickett today?
He will be limited, yes.
And if Dylan doesn't start, I mean, your only other option then is for Tyler to start the game, right?
We'll work through all those things. Obviously, Snoop knows exactly what to do, how to do it, so is ready to roll. We'll see who else is available, Mary Kay, but got to get through today before I know that.
Sounds like Tyler Huntley getting a lot of action for Cleveland this week. Meanwhile, no action for Micah Parsons, who still shows up to camp but doesn't practice. Apparently hasn't had any conversations, his agent or even him, with Jerry Jones in months as they try to pursue a new contract, and we're closing in on the time where this has got to get done. Jerry Jones, after practice, once again, meeting with the media yesterday, talking about the latest with Parsons.
Again, I'm glad he's been here. It's important. It's important for the team, teammates, but it's important for him to pick up all of the coaching and the nuances. Osmosis is a very big thing, and he's been here and been a part of that.
Now that you're headed home, do you think that talks would pick up a little bit with him?
I don't know that necessarily talks will, but we've got a game coming, and he's under contract.
Cowboys open up the season coming up here in a couple of weeks. All right. Unfortunately, a passing of a former player in the National Football League, Lionel Taylor. He was the first player in NFL history to have 100 catches in a season, was on the 1960 Broncos, passed away at the age of 89. All right. The Brewers train just keeps on rolling. Would you believe they win again and relatively easy yesterday? They beat the Pirates 12-5. They now have won a record 12 straight games. That's the most for anybody in baseball this season, as they continue to take charge of the division, and not just that, the best overall record in baseball as well, hitting home runs at an incredible pace. Brandon Woodruff picked up the win yesterday for the Brew Crew and talked about just all the little things getting done.
Yeah. Woody, it was such a Brewers game. It was the defense early, Ortiz, and then your play.
Yeah, big time.
And then all those 2-out hits and timely hits and that kind of stuff.
And that's what it takes. Streaks like this and good baseball all around. Like, I asked Joey after the inning, like, if he would have been able to make that play, and he said it would have been a tough, up the middle play. So it's just, the ball bouncing the right way. You know what I mean? So it's just part of it. And he made some unbelievable plays later in the game. I believe there was one in the 7th where he had to go in the hole, and I can't remember if it was for him. But anyways, heck of a day for him, and we're putting it together, all facets. I mean, it's like, it doesn't matter if we get down early or what it is. We know our offense can generate some runs, and we've been throwing the ball well, and yeah, it was fun. But yeah, I'm glad you mentioned my defensive play, because that was pretty slick. Yeah.
Padres rout the Giants again. Boy, things have gone south for them. San Diego 11, San Francisco 1. Also, the Mets had a 6-0 lead against the Braves. They lose 11-6. The Mets are 2-8. in their last 10 games. It's been just a fall from grace for the Mets, and manager Carlos Mendoza is looking for answers.
Carlos, what did you see happen with Peterson there in the fourth?
Yeah, he lost the strike zone, missing a lot, arm side, and the walks, especially when you're walking the bottom of the lineup, 8-hole, 9-hole, or the inning started with 4 straight balls there, you up 6, and he just kind of lost the strike zone, especially arm side, and they made him pay.
What is the biggest challenge, whether it's as a manager or just as a team, of staying in the right mindset when this stretch is going on and losses like the ones you've been having lately have been taking place?
Yeah, I mean, they're tough losses, but you got to keep going, We got the coaches right now, looking at pretty much everything, trying to figure it out. How can we continue to help these guys, especially the guys, from the rotation, because we know the talent's there, but we just.
We'll talk some NFL coming up next with Matt Latufsky from Sporting News.
Enter into the magical world of McLuck.com, where even the smallest of spins can win real cash prizes. Adventure into over 1,000 of the best Vegas-style slot games. So what are you waiting for? Unlock your free welcome offer today. Join the fun where winners play and players win.
We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune in to Game Time Decisions weekdays on SportsGrid.
This is the moment every fan waits for. The countdown's over. The road to kickoff has begun.
Play is here to stay.
I'm not going to name names, Kevin.
From win totals to player props, from division races to MVP debates, we've got eyes on every camp and data feeding 24/7, breaking down every angle across the league. Every pick, every edge, every line that matters. SportsGrid. Your road to kickoff starts now.
Did you know sportsbooks tend to draw up tighter bet lines for events that get even more bettors, like championship games or major matchups? My tip? Try betting on less popular sports. You might have a better shot at beating those odds. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on Sports Grid. We're joined by Matt Latufsky of Sporting News to go over the latest in the National Football League. We got the preseason starting up again tomorrow night. Matt, welcome back to NewsWire here. We got the news this morning. The Browns look like they're going to have to pivot in not just one direction or two directions or three directions. My gosh, who would have thought a few months ago if I told you that it wouldn't even be one of the first 4 quarterbacks starting their game this week? You would have said, no way. But Shedeur Sanders with the oblique, he's not going to play. Sounds like Dylan Gabriel probably not going to play. Does Flacco, don't you have to have 3 quarterbacks in the preseason? What are the Browns going to do here?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, we have seen, I remember last year Trey Lance played an entire game in the preseason. So I guess anything can happen. But yeah, it's a very interesting and strange situation. This was the team that was kind of the talk of week one of the preseason, or mainly Shadur was the talk of week one of the preseason. All those eyeballs on that game tuning in. And you talk about people scrambling ahead of this game. Yeah, the Browns are scrambling, but I think TV viewers and the NFL Network is scrambling too, because that all of a sudden that game got a whole lot less interesting. I'm sure there still will be some Shadur fans who do tune in to sort of hope that whoever is playing does poorly so it can help his case to move up the depth chart. But yeah, that situation was a mess coming into the preseason. Even after week one, when Shadur played relatively well, it's still a mess, and it's just even more of a mess now. And I think that, kind of sums up the Cleveland Browns quarterback situation for the better part of, I don't know, their existence, or at least since they've come back into the NFL.
Yeah, pretty much the case. And, listen, Joe Flacco has some stability, but the second that he drops back and gets sacked 7 times in a game, Browns fans, Matt, are going to cry. And that's going to happen. I don't know if it's week 1, week 2, week 3, but that's the problem here. Their win total is one of the lowest on the board in the NFL. It's not quite in the category of the New Orleans Saints, but it is close. I mean, 5.5 is their win total on the FanDuel Sportsbook. I mean, that's the only thing I think that I would even consider looking at here, because I would not pick them to make the playoffs or win the North. And you're not going to lay 12.50 to win 100. That just doesn't make sense. So, can you make a case in that division that they get to 6? If all things break right, it's kind of hard to do.
It's very difficult to do. Like, their defense isn't bad. Like, they still, on paper anyway, if they stay healthy, look like they're going to have a decent defense. But you're right, in that division where you're dealing with 3 teams that could very easily make the playoffs, I think you can make a case for the other 3 teams to win the division. I mean, not that any of them are perfect. There's certainly flaws with the Bengals defense, or, maybe the Steelers quarterback situation and offense. But yeah, it's going to be tough. You're not getting any cheap ones within your own division. And when your quarterback situation is as shaky as the Browns looks like it's going to be, even those decent skill players you have on offense, and they have a couple, and we don't know what the running back room exactly is going to shake out to look like, but it's just tough. It's tough to bank on it. So yeah, I think this team is going to be once again in the contention for the number 1 pick, unfortunately.
Yeah, feels like it, no doubt. All right, so now let's get to brighter stories here in Ohio, and that is the Cincinnati Bengals. Although their defense is really going to be the question going into the season, they actually maybe performed a little bit better than people thought and had some success at different times. But the odds makers are still telling us that it is the Ravens' division to lose. Like, this is not close. And as we look at the FanDuel Sportsbook, Baltimore is minus 155 to win the division. I mean, Matt, this isn't a minus 110 or 120. This is a heavy favorite here. What do the Bengals have to do to take this division and get further into the playoffs, which they would love to do?
Yeah, well, I think look, it's football, right? So a lot of it's going to come down to that turnover luck. It's going to come down to the whole, game of inches cliche, but they have the offense that can really outgun and outscore anyone on any given Sunday. And that's what they're going to have to ride. I mean, obviously, we know the defense has deficiencies. It had deficiencies last year, and it doesn't look like it got much better, if at all, on paper. So you're hoping coordinator change and some coaching, scheme changes can help maximize the talent they do have. But this is a team that's going to be predicated on winning games by scoring a lot of points. And I think you're right that Ravens number, it does seem a little heavy for how good the Bengals can be, for how good the Steelers can be. So from that aspect, I don't know if they're necessarily good value, but from the Bengals aspect, they provide a little bit of value because, like I said, they have a legit MVP candidate. They have maybe the best receiver in the game, one of the top 2. They have one of the best overall offenses in the game. So, if you're going to make a bet on a team like that can score a lot of points any given week, and if they do get some turnover luck at the right times and can pull out some of those close games this year instead of losing them like they did last year, then yeah, you have a team that can win 12 games and contend for a division. So they're a real fascinating team. I think they're operating on a very thin margin of error given the defensive talent, but they're a team that's going to score points and be a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, I think that that's fair to say. And, again, fantasy-wise, a lot of people going for Bengals players because if the defense is shaky, that means the offense is good. Okay, Michael Penix Jr., a little scary in practice, getting involved in a little scuffle with the Tennessee Titans. That's the last thing that you want to see. I was looking forward to Penix playing. Honestly, Matt, this preseason doesn't look like it's going to happen. They must know something that we don't. It kind of feels like a little fear here of him getting hurt. And then you move to Kirk Cousins. And Matt, I've told, people here on this show, my belief is, and just following sports, is I think Cousins is getting traded right before the season begins. And I think that's why they're holding him out too. You don't want him as a backup all season long there. Penix's numbers, 3,350 passing yards on FanDuel, 18.5 touchdowns, and a big long shot to win the MVP. Boy, I really don't have a good feel for how this team or how this guy is going to play. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not either. He wasn't particularly good last year in his limited attempts. It's tough to, but clearly they're confident in him. Like you said, they're holding him out. They feel pretty good about him. So that's a good sign. They do have talent around him. Now, I don't know at what point do we give up on some of the talent around him. I don't know, but we certainly know Bijan Robinson, Drake London, very good players. I like that touchdown number. To me, that's the number that stands out as a very interesting number for him, him hitting that. But yeah, solid opportunity for him. Now it's just a matter of, does he have the talent? Can he cash in? Because clearly they're pretty confident in him, which you always got to take that with a little grain of salt, but I do think it is a good sign.
Yep, should be for the Falcons as they get ready to play the first preseason game in week 2 coming up tomorrow night. Thanks again, Matt, for coming on the show.
I appreciate it.
Sports Grid Sound Off up next. Don't go away.
Vegas knows how to celebrate. If you're headed to Vegas for your birthday, plan ahead to get all the birthday freebies the city has to offer. Just by showing your ID, you could get free cash play, scratch cards, drinks, and food at various venues on the Strip. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
He said that was his decision, not a smart baseball play. Like, shut up, Dave. Like, you know what I mean? Like, really. If Ohtani wants to steal third base on his own, let him steal third base on his own, bro. Like, he's Shohei Ohtani. He made the call. He was wrong. He was out. Okay. I wouldn't have called him out for it.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Multiple times on 18 today. It was just so wild. I mean, the distances, JJ hit it to the exact same spot. He had 30 feet, 36 feet, and 30 feet, and made the second playoff hole, the 30-footer there. And then they go to recut the hole,
which I like. I like that, by the way.
Oh, I thought it was great, but I'm like, dude, he might hole out from the fairway. Like, they cut the hole where he's hit every single approach shot.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
What would you tell the people right now, though? Like, okay, I like the Rams heading into the season, but I'm not sure about Matthew Stafford because people want to get their bets in. People want their team totals. People want to bet week number 1 here. So what's your prognosis on the Rams? We'll talk long-term in a second. Week number 1. Are we just going to say, like, yeah, he's ready. Bullets are flying. He looks great out there because he is a tough dude. But again, a back injury for a quarterback trying to get all that torque on passes, usually not good.
The Early Line, only on
All right, welcome back to NewsWire here on Sports Grid. Hey, we're coming to the end of NFL training camps. I don't know if you're aware of kind of how it works, is that teams in the NFL, they have their opening of training camp, of course, and then they go for a few weeks. And then once the second week of the NFL preseason begins, the teams go back home to where their location is. They play that final game. So we'll get into what teams saw in their training camps as we get ready to wrap up this week in this edition of the Sports Grid Sound Off. All right, let's start off with the Kansas City Chiefs as they try to chase down another title. This is one team that probably doesn't really need a training camp per se like some of the other teams. You know who the players are. They're bringing more or less the same crew back for another season. And, of course, that includes their head coach and Andy Reid. It also includes future Hall of Famer Patrick Mahomes, who, kind of had a little bit of a down offensive season last year, although the team again got right back to the Super Bowl. So here is Mahomes as training camp wraps up on getting ready for the Chiefs opener, which is now less than a month away.
I thought it was awesome, just getting to spend some time with the guys, and I thought we had a great training camp. There was none of those bad days where it's just no energy. Everybody kind of brought their own motivation and motivated each other, and so I thought it was a really good training camp, and it was good to kind of be here with the guys and kind of build that team chemistry that you're going to need throughout a season.
Flip the bill on the dinners this year.
I think it just goes here and there, so we'll keep that secret.
Coach said you're maybe not going to play it much at all, maybe in this game on Friday. It's a little bit different than what it's been in the past. You want to play a lot, but
yeah, I'll be prepared to play. I think I go into every single game with the mentality of you don't know how much you're going to get in there. So whenever you do get reps, you just try to maximize those. And so I'll go through my normal routine and be ready to go. And we'll see how it gets as we get there. But I'll be prepared to play for however many snaps that is.
Same could be said for the Philadelphia Eagles, who have the biggest of aspirations going into the season, of course, naturally winning the Super Bowl a year ago in pretty much a blowout fashion. So here is Jalen Hurts. One of the things that Hurts talked about that has really helped the Eagles, at least according to him, is not so much in these preseason games, but like a lot of the coaches are talking about, these joint practices that Philadelphia has gone through. Here's Hurts on those and how they've been able to get players going and some of the players who haven't played in the preseason, getting them back on the field.
Yeah, you learn a lot. You learn a lot about where you are, and then you learn about where you have opportunity to go. And I think today was very competitive. I've always enjoyed every joint practice just from that state. And then we got a lot of guys not practicing as well. And so being able to put guys in different situations and just build and learn. And, when you go into a joint practice, I've noticed and over time, there's sometimes where you're game planning. There's sometimes where you're aware. And there's sometimes that you're not game planning for the practice. You kind of just go out there and try to play ball. And so Coach Schwartz, Coach Stefanski, and the Browns are always a great team to compete against. They got a great talent.
Where do you think you are?
Say that again?
Where do you think you are based off your practice?
Yeah, I think I'm continuing to evolve and grow. I think it's going and having those conversations with Coach KP and continue to build about where we want to be and how we want to do things, and continue to learn from the good, the bad, and be my biggest critic like I've always been.
All right, let's end with the Baltimore Ravens as they wrap up training camp. One of the unique situations with all training camps are the people that show up and the celebrities that want to take part. Well, in this case, the Ravens were doing a lot of pool work this training camp, and that was led by, of course, great Olympian and gold medalist Michael Phelps. Also, Ray Lewis made an appearance at camp. Here's John Harbaugh on the celebrity sightings with the Ravens.
With Michael Phelps, how did he do with the talk? We listened to a little bit of it.
Well, the two talks, and you probably would be online, I would think, here, if not already. But Michael and Ray, it's amazing. I was looking around at the faces of the players. If I had a mirror, I think my face would have been the same. Just listen to these two guys. We had two of the, two arguably the greatest ever. I would say the greatest ever to do what they do in history. That's pretty rare. And they're standing right next to each other on the same field. And like Rasheen Ali said to me, he said, yeah. He said, and Lamar Jackson, and Derrick Henry, and Roquan Smith, Marlon Humphrey. He named it off right in that group, and it kind of opened your eyes a little bit. And then the words that they shared with the guys were just so spot on. It's all the things that our guys, they know, they believe in, and to hear them reinforce and put in such terms, like in terms that the guys are very vulnerable about, and kind of talked about their careers a little bit. It was once in a lifetime.
Good stuff from John Harbaugh. In camp. Robert Linehan from Sports Radar is up next.
all know nothing beats the energy of playing live roulette in a casino. But playing roulette online sure does have its perks. At the casino, you'll average 40 to 50 spins per hour. But online, you're looking at 100 to 150. The more spins, the more chance of wins. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
He said that was his decision, not a smart baseball play. Like, shut up, Dave. Like, you know what I mean? Like, really. If Ohtani wants to steal third base on his own, let him steal third base on his own, bro. Like, he's Shohei Ohtani. He made the call. He was wrong. He was out. Okay. I wouldn't have called him out for it.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid. This is the moment every fan waits for. The countdown's over. The road to kickoff has begun.
Play is here to stay.
I'm not going to name names, Kevin.
From win totals to player props, from division races to MVP debates, we've got eyes on every camp and data feeding 24/7, breaking down every angle across the league. Every pick, every edge, every line that matters. SportsGrid. Your road to kickoff starts now.
All right, welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. I'm Craig Mish. Don't forget, we got Manny Navarro coming up from The Athletic. We're going to talk about the big matchup between Miami and Notre Dame, which is just a couple of weeks away. We'll have all of college football covered for you all season long. For now, let's get back to some Major League Baseball, and let's talk about some of the finals that happened yesterday. Of course, a light slate of baseball today, a handful of games. The Milwaukee Brewers, we're not going to have an opportunity to see them play today because they have the day off. But they did win their 12th straight game yesterday. Biggest story going right now in sports. Final score 12-5 as they extend their winning streak. It's a season long in baseball. 12 games in a row. They'll continue this weekend and square off against the Cincinnati Reds in Ohio this weekend. So keep an eye on that series. Of course, we will too. Now, the Los Angeles Dodgers, they can't wait to get rid of the Los Angeles Angels and be done with their series. It's incredible. The Angels beat them again. And so now the Angels are 6-0 against the Dodgers this season. They rally late to win this one. It's probably the low point in the season for the Dodgers, to say the least. For some reason, they just can't beat their cross-city rivals. And Mookie Betts certainly doesn't have any answers either for how his team has just dropped every game to the Angels this year.
I mean, it is what it is. Can't do anything about it now. Got to turn the page and get ready for San Diego. But I mean, it's not like those guys aren't going out there giving it their all. So you can't. Sometimes you just don't get it done. I mean, for sure. I think we're constantly giving ourselves chances to win. So. Right now, that's really what we can ask for. Obviously, we would love to win all these games, but it just wasn't in the cards. And so, like I said, we just got to turn the page and get ready for San Diego.
Is it encouraging that some of the play has been better, or is it more frustrating that it's kind of been accompanied with like a lot of close losses like tonight?
Just depends on your perspective. But for me, I think it's encouraging to know that we're giving ourselves a chance to win every night. So. It's not like we're going out there just laying eggs, you know. We're going out there and doing what we can. We're just falling short right now, but who knows? In a couple of days, it could be the opposite.
Meanwhile, the Padres also take care of the Giants 11-1, and the Mets blow a 6-0 lead to the Braves. And the Mets are really struggling. They're 2-8 in their last 10. Now let's get back to the American League, where the New York Yankees have been just very up and down all season long, more down than up recently. Yesterday, they take on the Minnesota Twins, and Joe Ryan has his way with that lineup. Ryan pitched 6 2/3 innings, and the Twins end up winning by a final score of 4-1. Here's Aaron Boone on the lack of offense from the Bombers on Wednesday.
7th inning with Wells coming up against the lefty. Was there any consideration pinch hitting Goldschmidt for him?
No, he hurt himself last night, the knee, so he wasn't available tonight.
Is it a day-to-day thing, or
Hoping could be an IL, could be a day-to-day. We'll kind of see here over the next 24 hours which way we'll go with it.
You know which knee it was?
I can find out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Schlittler at 86 pitches. Did you consider having him go back out for the 6th inning?
Yeah, I mean, it was a conversation. He'd thrown, it was like 52 over the 4th and 5th inning, though, and just coming through obviously a tough part of the lineup. And, Buxton, the time prior, had seen a ton of pitches before, hitting the double against him. I just felt like it was 86, but over 50 those last 2 innings. So it's like, how much more are you going to get? I felt like he really had to grind through the 4th and the 5th there. And, he set us up, especially, going into an off day and rested up Penn, felt like we could get there.
Astros beat the Red Sox. Final score 4-1. Hunter Brown pitched 6 2/3 innings. The Mariners finally lose a game. They had won 8 games in a row. Jackson Holiday with a walk-off double. Orioles win 4-3. Diamondbacks score 4 runs in the top of the 9th. They take care of the Rangers hanging around in the division. They beat them 6-4 the final. Meanwhile, our friends at Front Office Sports do a great job every single day here on SportsGrid, hosting their own show here on our network. They discussed the latest sale in the WNBA involving the Connecticut Sun. Take a listen.
Sports reporter Annie Costable. So, Annie, where do things currently stand with the Sun in Connecticut?
Things are heating up, guys. Things are heating up. Obviously, we know the interested parties are the group in Boston, the group in Hartford, and now, there's been more discussion about whether or not this team could potentially end up in Houston. The league has been, I guess we could say vague, but honestly not even that vague about their desires for the team to end up in a location in a city that had previously put in an expansion bid, and atop that list is Houston. And so when we're considering where this team could end up, that preferred destination of Houston is becoming clearer. And according to multiple sources, that is the preferred destination for the league when it comes to the sale of the Sun.
So we had all thought with the $325 million report that came out around them getting sold, possibly moving to Boston, that was going to happen. What needs to happen for them to be moved to Houston or elsewhere?
Yeah, so this is a super layered situation, right? Because when Houston originally bid for an expansion team, it was part of the group that included the most recent teams that were awarded expansion teams, and that was Cleveland, Detroit, and Philadelphia. And Houston was reportedly short of that $250 million bid. So now fast forward, the Sun are for sale, and that sale price of $325 million becomes public, right? The Boston Globe is first to report it. We confirm that. Now that number's out there, right? So that's the benchmark you would assume for the sale of this franchise. On top of that, there's expected to be a relocation fee. And now it comes down to, which ownership group is really willing to pay that $325 million. That again seems like it was a very strategic decision to get that sale price out there, because now that's the baseline. But on top of that, a relocation fee, because what we know is for expansion teams, they're paying a fee to the league. Mm-hmm. That $250 million expansion fee goes to the league. When a team is sold, the previous owner is the recipient of that sale price. You can't just have teams freely moving wherever they please, whenever they want. That's the decision of the league, which again is layered.
Well, and to that point, right now, the current owner of the Sun, the Mohegan Tribe, apparently there's reports that the preferred destination is to keep the team in Connecticut, which is why Mark Lazary, the former owner of the Bucks, submitted a bid in addition to the state of Connecticut to keep the team in Connecticut, but would move them to Hartford. What are the chances the team just stays in Connecticut? Is that an idea that the WNBA wants?
So there's, again, so many layers to this. To my knowledge, from the sources I've spoken to, if the Mohegan Tribe wanted to keep the team, wanted to sell to a group that was willing to keep the team in Uncasville, that would be approved by the WNBA, no problem, because there's no relocation involved. The hang up here is the relocation.
Very interesting. Well, I know last time the Atlanta Dream were sold, it was late 2020. They were sold and officially approved by early 2021 in February. This one seems like it's going to take a lot longer, Annie, especially with more people interested in acquiring a WNBA team currently.
Yeah, I mean, it's that desire to get into the business of the WNBA. The WNBA has more, power in terms of, influencing where a team ends up. Of course, the Mohegan Tribe are the owners of the team. They could take this sale off the market. They could completely, they have control in this situation too. There's a lot of ways in which they can control this situation, but the league is very much influencing where the team ends up as well.
You can catch Front Office Sports each and every day at 6 o'clock Eastern here on SportsGrid. Coming up next, we'll be joined by Josh Graham. We'll get into the latest in the Carolina Panthers, a team close to Josh's heart. You're watching NewsWire here on SportsGrid. We'll be back after these talking some National Football League each and every day. We do it here on NewsWire from 12 p.m. to 1:30 p.m. and wherever you're re-streaming our show. We'll be with more NewsWire right after this.
We all know nothing beats the energy of playing live roulette in a casino. But playing roulette online sure does have its perks. At the casino, you'll average 40 to 50 spins per hour. But online, you're looking at 100 to 150. The more spins, the more chance of wins. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
He said that was his decision, not a smart baseball play. Like, shut up, Dave. Like, you know what I mean? Like, really. If Ohtani wants to steal third base on his own, let him steal third base on his own, bro. Like, he's Shohei Ohtani. He made the call. He was wrong. He was out. Okay. I wouldn't have called him out for it.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid. This is the moment every fan waits for. The countdown's over. The road to kickoff has begun.
Play is here to stay.
I'm not going to name names, Kevin.
From win totals to player props, from division races to MVP debates, we've got eyes on every camp and data feeding 24/7, breaking down every angle across the league. Every pick, every edge, every line that matters. SportsGrid. Your road to kickoff starts now.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Great to have Josh Graham in the house. And, of course, you catch him on Afternoon Drive on WSJS. He joins us now to talk some Carolina football, the triad all over the area there. He's covering both college and pro. And, App State, I didn't realize that's right. I mean, you got to cover so many different college football teams, Josh. I mean, App State's a big deal there. I'm like combing the website here. Didn't really realize that you got your hands full, man. Like, I feel like this is what I have here in South Florida, where I got to cover the Dolphins and the Hurricanes and FIU and FAU. But you guys got a ton of football getting ready to kick off here.
Oh, yeah. App State is a group of 5 powerhouse. And then North Carolina has some coach named Bill Belichick running the operation. Duke's won 9 games in consecutive seasons. And Wake Forest is the most recent local team to go to an ACC championship. And then you got a lot of NC State fans around here, more than I think the national public would appreciate. And then, there's a team called the Carolina Panthers, too, that keep us busy as well. So you're right. You're astute to point out that there are a lot of different fan bases nestled in what is called the Great Old North State.
Gotcha. All right. So let's start with the NFL, and then we'll take it from there. Maybe college we'll get to as well if we can. So the Panthers, to me, are one of those intriguing teams, Josh, because I feel like there's a shot that they're better than most of the prognostications going into the season. It's a very much unknown coach. We got to keep it honest here for you, yes. But Dave Canales, a lot of people do not know a ton about him. I found it interesting that he's not one of the coaches listed potentially to be coach of the year. And there's a lot of others going into their second year and even rookie coaches too. Because, again, a lot of this is going to hinge on the quarterback. Fair or not, Josh, you know it's a quarterback league. I thought, honestly, Young made his greatest strides at the end of last season. And the question is going to have to be, is it real or a mirage going into this season?
Well, I think this is a conversation about support, where Bryce Young was taken the number 1 pick in the draft in 2023. C.J. Stroud was taken number 2. And as we all saw, C.J. Stroud had one of the greatest rookie seasons we had ever seen until what Jaden Daniels did this past year as a rookie. And when you look at the support that CJ had his rookie season, and it's just interesting that these two are from the same part of Southern California, and they're actually practicing against each other today because joint practices are between the Panthers and the Texans. Bryce didn't have any support. Bryce didn't have the right coaching staff. There were coaches trying to pull at the play calling duties, and he didn't have weapons, and the O-line was terrible. Well, then you start to get that Dave Canales energy in there, and Dave Canales' background is working with Russell Wilson, Baker Mayfield, getting Geno Smith's career back on track, and he did a lot of the same things. You guys just threw up a graphic with Bryce Young. The final 10 games of the season, Bryce Young was one of the 10 best quarterbacks in the NFL. Over the final 3 games of the season, he had 10 total touchdowns, no turnovers. You could make a case the final 3 games of the season, Bryce Young was the best quarterback in the NFL. And a lot of that had to do with the O-line in place. That was one of the strengths of the Panthers when it was a weakness his rookie year. And the coaching staff putting him in a position to be successful. And for the first time in Bryce's pro career, going into year 3, he's not going to have to learn a new offense going into a season. And that O-line I just mentioned is completely intact. And on top of it, they add a top 10 pick at wide receiver to support Bryce and Teteroa McMillan out of Arizona, and a 1,000-yard rusher to go with the 1,000-yard rusher they already have. They added Rico Dowdle from the Cowboys to go along with Chuba Hubbard. So this year, you mentioned it's a quarterback league. Carolina's success is going to be dependent on the quarterback. There's no excuse for why Bryce Young can't look the way he did over the final 10 games, where, again, was terrific and nearly beat both of the teams that were in the Super Bowl last year. The Eagles and the Chiefs came just a couple plays away from winning both those games.
Yeah, good point, Josh. And, Josh, comes on the air with me, and I asked him off the air if, he's into sports betting at all, because, of course, we do a sports betting show. And Josh made, the cardinal mistake on the show, which was telling me that he won a bet last night. So that means I'm going to force the issue here, Josh. You got no choice. Normally, I bring in guests. I don't make them make a pick, but I'm going to make you make one here on Bryce Young. So here we go. 3,200 passing yards. I'm giving you 3 options, actually 6 options here. 3,200 passing yards over under, 18.5 passing touchdowns over under, and 30-plus passing touchdowns, which would be an insane number. That's 7-1. So I'm not going to make you do that, but if you want, you can throw your $1 and win 7. What do you like any of those options that I gave you there on the over or under going into the season?
I love both the overs on those stats because Bryce was nearly a 3,000-yard passer his rookie year, and I just mentioned how bad of a season that was for him last year. If you look at if he sustained what he did over the last 10 games of last year, you're going to be cruising over that 3,200 number. And as in terms of a big concern you would have with Bryce Young's size is whether or not he'd be on the field enough to play in those games. Bryce hasn't missed any games his first 2 years due to injury, which is important to note as well. So he's proven to be durable both at Alabama and with the Carolina Panthers. And again, with the support that he's just been given this offseason and what we saw over a not small sample towards the end of last year. By the way, the schedule's not all that difficult either. I love both those numbers. I had not seen those numbers until now, but I can assure you, as soon as we get off the air, I'm going to be finding those numbers pretty quickly.
I gave you 27 seconds to see him for the first time and make a pick. That's why Josh is on the show. So our graphics department's also going to be mad because I'm pivoting completely away from what I was going to talk about, and I'm going to ask you this. Bill Belichick is the most polarizing coach going into this year. It was Deion Sanders in the past. I mean, you must on about this on your shows, Josh. I don't think that this is middle ground here. I think this is going to go fantastically well or an epic disaster. Is there any direction as to what you would guess going into year one?
I actually will hedge. I think North Carolina is going to be what it has been in the past, which is around here, 8 wins is good. That's really good. Nationally, it won't be viewed that way. Just look at the schedule. You don't have Florida State, SMU, Louisville on it, and it's very favorable. I think just by being the coach Bill is, they'll figure out a way to get into bowl contention, 7-8 wins, but nothing more than that.
Great stuff, Josh. Thanks for coming on the show. Look forward to having you on again. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Craig.
Josh Graham with us talking Carolina football. We'll take a quick time out. Robert Linehan from Sports Radar is on deck. Don't go away.
Want to play roulette? Here's a tip. European roulette has a lower house edge than American style. The lower the house edge, the better shot you have at winning. Most online casinos offer European roulette. So, if I were you, I'd get spinning. Now, go get lucky. See you in Lost Pages. Let's get lucky.
This is the moment every fan waits for. The countdown's over. The road to kickoff has begun.
Play is here to stay.
I'm not going to name names, Kevin.
From win totals to player props, from division races to MVP debates, we've got eyes on every camp and data feeding 24/7, breaking down every angle across the league. Every pick, every edge, every line that matters. SportsGrid. Your road to kickoff starts now.
Justin Rose has done it so many times in his career. That's like he's so good at everything. There's nothing that he's bad at. You know, every part of his game is at close to a elite level when it's good. And so when he had it going on this week, he's not scared, dude. When he gets that look in his eye, watch out.
The Smiley Show, only on
If you don't like getting hit, you can't do BKFC point blank.
Oh, absolutely. Like in the MMA world, you have opportunities to negate getting hit more so than BKFC. You can get a takedown, you can secure a dominant position where you're less likely to get hit, and even if you are getting hit, you're less damaging because of your position.
Combat Sports Report, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire. Great to have Robert Linehan from Sport Radar here on the show to go over the latest in sports betting news. Robert, thanks for coming on the show. Appreciate it. Let's get right to it. December 1st, a very big day as the state of Missouri will implement legalized sports betting. Who do you anticipate will have access to that? Will it be FanDuel? Will it be DraftKings? I guess we're going to have to wait and see.
Well, Craig, thank you so much for having me on. Well, yes, December 1st is going to be the launch date for Missouri sports betting, likely the only state in 2025 to launch sports betting. You asked who I think will be available in sort of the Missouri sports betting landscape when everything does launch. You're certainly going to see the big players in some way. You'll see your DraftKings, your FanDuels, Fanatics Sportsbook, Bet365, Caesars. But right now, what's being discussed is who is awarded the very valuable untethered online sports betting licenses. There was a hearing yesterday which involved representatives from FanDuel, DraftKings, and Circus Sports, all making their case to the Missouri Gaming Commission to be awarded one of two untethered online sports betting licenses. Now, these licenses are valuable because they don't have to partner with either a casino or a sports franchise to do business in Missouri, which basically means that they don't have to enter into a revenue sharing agreement. They don't have to pay for a market access partnership. Basically, they get to keep 100% of the tax revenues themselves. There are only two of these licenses available. There are three candidates. As I mentioned, you have FanDuel and DraftKings, who are by far the two largest players in the sports betting landscape. And then you have the absolute dark horse in Circus Sports. Circus Sports is a very well-respected operator. They don't do anywhere near the business of FanDuel and DraftKings, but they cater to, I guess you would call it, a less casual class of bettors. Their CEO and founder, Derek Stevens, during their license presentation, basically said that over 95% of their handle, comes from a $50 or more bet, where in terms of DraftKings and FanDuel, I mean, you'll see more of the $1, $5, $10 bet varieties. So right now, basically, we're sort of waiting to see what's going to happen. The Missouri Gaming Commission will make their decision on who gets these two licenses tomorrow, actually. They have a meeting at 9 a.m. Central Time, and they're going to award the first two ever sports betting licenses in the state. It's very exciting. We'll get to know who the rest of the operators are in September when the partnered license applications are due. And we're well on our way to another state offering sports betting.
It'll be big news tomorrow here on our show as well. Big news in sports betting, or maybe much ado about nothing, Robert. The story about Oklahoma back John Mateer, I guess, had his Venmo public so everybody could see what he was doing and making purchases, and had a couple of funny comments saying it was for sports betting. And I guess it won't be funny if they find out that this is actually sports betting. I'm going to basically guess that and take his word at this, that he was just having a little fun maybe between buddies. But I don't know. What do you make of that?
You know, Craig, I'd have to agree with you. These were Venmo transactions that started to appear on social media earlier this week that Mateer made when he was a rookie quarterback at Washington University. I think they were in November of 2022. Basically, there were two of them. They were labeled as sports gambling. One of the transactions even had I think it was USC versus UCLA in the transaction as well. I do remember when I was in college, I certainly was not as intelligent or mature as I like to think I am now. So I'd like to give him the benefit of the doubt that these are inside jokes. He said as much. He has noted on his social media channels that he's not debating that they are his Venmo transactions, but he is basically reporting that these are inside jokes. They were meant to be funny among friends. But like you said, it joke or not, it's turning into a bigger deal than anyone thought. According to an ESPN report, the University of Oklahoma will be investigating these transactions. And if he's found to be involved in any type of sports betting when he was a member of a team, he could face the loss of eligibility. I mean, that's the largest penalty, but we'll see what happens.
Thanks for coming on the show, Robert.
Want to play roulette? Here's a tip. European roulette has a lower house edge than American style. The lower the house edge, the better shot you have at winning. Most online casinos offer European roulette. So, if I were you, I'd get spinning. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
This is the moment every fan waits for. The countdown's over. The road to kickoff has begun.
Play is here to stay.
I'm not going to name names, Kevin.
From win totals to player props, from division races to MVP debates, we've got eyes on every camp and data feeding 24/7, breaking down every angle across the league. Every pick, every edge, every line that matters. SportsGrid. Your road to kickoff starts now.
Justin Rose has done it so many times in his career. That's like he's so good at everything. There's nothing that he's bad at. You know, every part of his game is at close to a elite level when it's good. And so when he had it going on this week, he's not scared, dude. When he gets that look in his eye, watch out.
The Smiley Show, only on
If you don't like getting hit, you can't do BKFC point blank.
Oh, absolutely. Like in the MMA world, you have opportunities to negate getting hit more so than BKFC. You can get a takedown, you can secure a dominant position where you're less likely to get hit, and even if you are getting hit, you're less damaging because of your position.
Combat Sports Report, only on SportsGrid.
Always great to check in with Kurt Badenhausen of Sportico to go over the latest in sales of sports franchises. And Kurt, forgive me, but it does feel like this has been a very active time for news on that front. We had the Tampa Bay Rays, news on the Twins. I know yesterday you have this report, the evaluation on a lot of these franchises. It feels like there's nothing better than being a sports owner these days, is there?
Well, and we ended the day with the $6.1 billion Celtics deal getting approved. So wild day. We broke the Twins story where they were looking to find a new majority control owner. Unable to find that, but they're going to get two new limited partners came in. Valuations a little over $1.7 billion that Sportico values the team at. But this was not the outcome that the Poland family wanted when they put the team up for sale. They were clearly looking to get out, bring in somebody new, but they were unable to find this, which is a continuation of a pattern we've seen with Major League Baseball. Los Angeles Angels hired a banker to sell the team, unable to reach a deal. Washington Nationals hired a banker to sell the team, unable to reach a deal.
Yeah, Tampa Bay, fortunately for them, they did a little odd one without having a stadium, to say the least.
Well, we'll see. The Tampa deal's not complete. Still some hurdles to, but all the parties are trending that way. And ideally we'll have a deal set by September. But we haven't had a lot of team sales in Major League Baseball. Same as football, but I would say it's for two different reasons why you're not seeing deals in those two sports.
Yeah, CBA could be a reason in baseball too. All right, yeah, we could do hours on this here. Yeah, yes. We could do a lot of time on this. All right, so not surprisingly to me, I guess the Cowboys being evaluated here on Sportico, $12.8 billion. I can actually pivot away from that. I know it's a staggering number and it's huge, but it's not surprising. Like, we've all known the Cowboys are the premier group in football with their stadium and everything that goes on there. So let's dive into the others here with the Rams, the Giants, the Patriots, and the 49ers. I guess to my surprise are the Rams being second. Is it the stadium factor in that? Is that why?
Huge factor. You think about what SoFi is, the development around that. They're capturing so much revenue. Again, in the surrounding area. So we're not taking into account the full real estate development that's going on there, which is a $10 billion plus project. But we're capturing the part that in theory would sell with the team. But SoFi alone, I mean, you're talking about one of the premier venues in the world. I mean, it's a $5.5 billion stadium. When you talk about events that go to Los Angeles, they all go to SoFi. Half dozen Taylor Swift concerts. I mean, concerts,
Right.
Super Bowls, World Cup. So you have the team that generates a ton of revenue locally, but then Stan Kroenke, who owns the building, owns the team, also gets to capture all of that non-NFL revenue that flows through SoFi. Chargers are just a tenant in that building, and so all that money really flows to the Rams.
Yeah, it's fascinating there, and to see the NFL, I know that they reported 6.3 to 10.3 in terms of revenue multiples for sports teams. That's pretty dramatic, and I know that the WNBA and NBA have had their share of successes in sales too.
Yeah, I mean, this is not just a WNBA or NFL story. We've seen NFL and all sports teams emerge as an asset class. The NFL was the last one to approve private equity investments, and we've seen a flurry of LP sales over the last 12 months since they opened the door to institutional funds. So people are looking at sports teams as a real asset, alongside stocks, bonds, real estate, commodities. This is a place we can park our money. And if I have $100 million and I'm a family office, I want to have some exposure to sports. And when you think about the NFL, it is truly the cream of the crop because it has one thing that no other league can guarantee: you can't lose money from a year-to-year basis. So there's no capital calls at the end of the year, and you get a distribution because they all make money because of those big TV deals.
Yeah, you alluded to something, and I am going to go back to it. Actually, I wanted to do it another time, but because it's in my mind now, so I feel like I want to talk about it. So you said something that was interesting. You said that teams are being valuated and sold and not sold for different reasons. And we just talked about the Twins. That was the big story yesterday. It's actually the big story today as well. Am I right there? I mean, when the new CBA in Major League Baseball comes, if they do get a salary floor and a salary cap, will that change everything for these franchises? Because I feel like, is it a cold feet sort of situation, not knowing if that's going to happen and if teams are going to have to spend hundreds of millions of dollars like the Dodgers just to keep up with them? Is that playing a factor here?
There are three gigantic factors that have people with cold feet right now when it comes to Major League Baseball. And it's a very tricky dance that baseball is going to have to orchestrate over the next 3 years. You have the CBA, which is glaring after the 2026 season. But then the other two problems that we have is broadcast distribution. Major League Baseball was built on the back of regional sports networks, and that model has completely changed. So those economics have changed significantly. And now the revenue disparity between big market teams and small market teams it is worse than ever. And it's been exacerbated by the RSN problem, because teams at the top, the Red Sox, the Yankees, the Dodgers, the Cubs, the Mets, they're also getting their money. It's the teams that were all affiliated with Bally's, Diamond Sports, that have had their local media cut significantly. So baseball's going to have to figure out how those revenues are going to flow. Ideally, they're going to cut some sort of deal where the Dodgers, the Yankees of the world are going to give up some of their local programming, and then that money is going to flow through Major League Baseball. They want to try to mimic the NFL model, the NBA model, where every team gets a really big check from the league office. And that props up teams at the bottom of the list because the revenues between the top and the bottom of the league aren't nearly as disparate as we see in baseball right now, where teams like the Yankees and Dodgers, I mean, their local revenue, if you take out revenue sharing, they're doing 10 times the revenue that teams like the Marlins and the Rays are doing.
Right. But do you think that it would have to be a combination for those teams? Because I'm assuming that the Angels and the Nationals and the Twins and these teams eventually are going to put themselves back out there to sell again.
Yeah.
Like the new CBA. I mean, because I guess what I'm asking is, Major League Baseball gets a new TV deal. I mean, in my opinion, I don't think that's enough to really, I mean, it's a lot, but I don't know that that's enough to move the needle that far. I think it has to be the salary cap for some of these teams. Am I wrong about that?
I think they would like to see some sort of cap, and the reality is that's how the other sports leagues all work. I don't think that's necessary, but they need to fix the revenue disparity problem. And so, listen, bankers are loving baseball because they're looking at the valuation difference between what's happening in the NBA and MLB, and people still watch Major League Baseball games. But you're going to have to figure out what the distribution model looks like. And so they're looking to get in, but they want to kind of see. Investors don't like uncertainty, and there is so much uncertainty sitting over Major League Baseball right now.
Yeah, no, I think that's all fair. Real quick, let's end on the purchase of the Portland Trail Blazers. Carolina Hurricanes owner Tom Dundon. The number, it looks like $4 billion. Can you weigh in on that real quick before you go?
Yeah, tick over $4 billion. And we talk about teams not being sold in the other leagues. This will be the 14th NBA sale since 2013. That's half the league has turned over at significantly higher valuations. Portland, if I'm a Portland fan, I'm probably a little nervous because a guy that owns a team 3,000 miles across the country just bought my team. And they certainly need a new building in Portland for that to be viable. They got a new WNBA team coming online next year. So they're looking to, partner and play in the same arena. But this has been a long time coming since Paul Allen died, as the state required the team to be sold.
Thanks for coming on, Kurt. Great work as always.
All right, thanks.
Vegas knows how to celebrate. If you're headed to Vegas for your birthday, plan ahead to get all the birthday freebies the city has to offer. Just by showing your ID, you could get free cash play, scratch cards, drinks, and food at various venues on the Strip. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
He said that was his decision, not a smart baseball play. Like, shut up, Dave. Like, you know what I mean? Like, really. If Ohtani wants to steal third base on his own, let him steal third base on his own, bro. Like, he's Shohei Ohtani. He made the call. He was wrong. He was out. Okay. I wouldn't have called him out for it.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Multiple times on 18 today. It was just so wild. I mean, the distances, JJ hit it to the exact same spot. He had 30 feet, 36 feet, and 30 feet, and made the second playoff hole, the 30-footer there. And then they go to recut the hole,
which I like. I like that, by the way.
Oh, I thought it was great, but I'm like, dude, he might hole out from the fairway. Like, they cut the hole where he's hit every single approach shot.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
What would you tell the people right now, though? Like, okay, I like the Rams heading into the season, but I'm not sure about Matthew Stafford because people want to get their bets in. People want their team totals. People want to bet week number 1 here. So what's your prognosis on the Rams? We'll talk long-term in a second. Week number 1. Are we just going to say, like, yeah, he's ready. Bullets are flying. He looks great out there because he is a tough dude. But again, a back injury for a quarterback trying to get all that torque on passes, usually not good.
The Early Line, only on
All right, the college football season will begin next week. It's week 0, and then week 1 begins. And then just when you think week 1 is over, it doesn't end because August 31st, the University of Miami Hurricanes going to square off with the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. That's the lone game on Sunday night of week 1 of the college football season. Let's get the very latest on the Hurricanes with Manny Navarro from The Athletic, who has covered South Florida sports and the Hurricanes for decades, and he joins me here on the show. And I don't want to make you feel old, Manny, but thank you for coming on NewsWire. It's great to catch up.
Great to catch up with you, Craig, and you don't need to make me feel old. I can see my gray beard in the reflection here, so I know I'm old.
Not that old, still doing your thing, man. All right, so I mean, you kind of nailed last season with us when you were talking about the Hurricanes. You were always like, "I'm optimistic, but I don't know in the end how this is going to go." And that optimism and optimism and optimism, and then I mean, it kind of ended with a thud. I don't know. I'm. It's not that many I'm concerned with the Hurricanes because I'm not. I think they're going to be good, but it's like you had Cam Ward, and you didn't.
Yep.
He's the #1 pick in the draft. And there were still some really funky endings to some games as well. And I know Carson Beck is there, and he's made a lot of news in the offseason too. But I mean, look, like a lot of college programs, a pretty critical year, I think, for Miami coming.
Yeah, this is year 4 for Mario Cristobal, and really at this point in time, you start to, if you're a recruit or you're somebody outside the program who's interested or invested in potentially getting involved with them, you're looking at this year as, hey, this better be the year you do something, right? You better make the college football playoff. You better win an ACC championship. You better do something because you've had ample time now to build this roster and make it look the way you want it to look. And look, Carson Beck is not Cam Ward. Cam Ward was a special talent. I told you that on day one when I watched him in practice. It just felt different, the ball coming off his hand. But this team, it's going to look different. I think they could potentially be better because of what they brought in on defense. But still, you go into another year not really knowing if this is going to be the year for Mario as far as the breakthrough.
Okay, so here is what the fans will say. They'll say that Mario, a homegrown guy who's an incredible recruiter, most of the time does a good job coaching, but some late game decisions and issues continually plagued him, and this is going on now 2 years. Is that a fair assessment? That has happened. His team has come back and won some big games where things didn't go right in the first 3 quarters too. I mean, those things are fair. It feels like Miami's played a lot of close games that they shouldn't have because they were big favorites or shouldn't have been in, and they came back and won.
Yeah, certainly you look back at the middle of the year when they, sort of won on a miracle against Virginia Tech, came back against Cal, and then survived that shootout at Louisville, and you're thinking to yourself, man, is this really a top 10, top 25 team? Do they deserve to be there, or is one guy just carrying them there in Cam Ward? And I think by the end of the year, you saw that many of those defensive flaws that they had, especially in the secondary, were real. You get up 21-0 at Syracuse, you blow that lead, miss the ACC championship game because you just can't tackle and get guys down on the ground. And look, Syracuse was a good team, but up 21-0, run the football, right? And so you still question Mario Cristobal in terms of what are they actually doing on the sideline? What kind of decisions are they making? No excuse for last year. Like you said, they had the #1 pick in the draft. They had an all-time great quarterback at the university there and a really, really good offense, #1 in the country in terms of points and yards and all that stuff, and they still didn't get the job done. So you're right. This is a very important year for Mario Cristobal. I don't know whether or not to trust them on the road. But I think this is a 9 to 10 win team in terms of talent on paper.
Yeah, and I think that's fair. I guess we would probably ask why Carson Beck, you think, Manny, left Georgia and why he picked Miami. He was really good at Georgia. He also had some down moments as well. Is there any insight to kind of where things are at with him? Because as you said, I don't think anybody could beat Cam Ward since Dorsey. I haven't seen anybody close, and I think he was better than Ken Dorsey. I mean, clearly without the same amount of talent. Where on that scale is Beck going into the year? Because Georgia's such a good program for him to leave and come to Miami.
Yeah, I think he was really sold on going to the NFL draft, and then he had that injury and then had second thoughts. And I think ultimately what happened at Georgia was they had other financial needs. They put their money in other places, and they were okay sticking with Gunnar Stockton if that meant not sort of going over whatever budget that they were, trying to maintain there. And ultimately Carson Beck was going to get a boatload of money at Miami, and he did, and that's a big reason why he's here. I also think he was intrigued by the fact that Cam Ward had so much success with this offense, with this offensive coordinator, Shannon Dawson. And so I think ultimately that's why he's here. I think he is a top 3 quarterback in the ACC. I think the only guys that are on his level are Cade Klubnik and Kevin Jennings, who's over at SMU. So I think he has the potential here to have a big year. But this is going to be a more balanced offense. I think Miami's going to run the ball more. They've got 4 starters back on the offensive line. The 5th guy that they brought in from TCU. James Brockermeyer was a full-time starter for the Horned Frogs. So he's got a really good offensive line. He's got a good backfield, and the receiver room is young. And so I think this is going to be one of those where you're going to see a more balanced Miami approach and maybe not so many big numbers from Carson Beck.
So the big four that everyone talks about in Miami's schedule is very obvious. It's Notre Dame, the Florida Gators, Florida State Seminoles, and then the revenge game and rematch game against Syracuse. I mean, in this day and age with the playoff, they don't have to go 3-1 to get in the playoff, but they got to win at least 2 of these games, right, Manny?
They got to win 3. Let's face it, the ACC level, and when it comes to 9-3 team from the SEC or Big Ten, potentially.
We lost Manny there. It was breaking up a little bit on the internet, but Manny said he thinks 3 wins of those 4 between Notre Dame. Let's throw that graphic up again, Luke. Notre Dame, Florida, Florida State, and Syracuse. So those are the 4 big games. And again, other games in the conference as well. Thanks again to Manny Navarro from The Athletic for joining us here on the show. Known Manny a long time covering sports here in South Florida. All right, take a quick timeout. When we come back next, Manny is very into the money that's being thrown around, but nobody's spending more money than the University of Kansas these days. A amount of NIL money going their way. Also the latest on the Milwaukee Brewers and a whole lot more. You're watching NewsWire here on SportsGrid. We'll take our final time out here on the show, and we'll come back and wrap it up on this Thursday afternoon. We'll be right back. Let's go.
Vegas knows how to celebrate. If you're headed to Vegas for your birthday, plan ahead to get all the birthday freebies the city has to offer. Just by showing your ID, you could get free cash play, scratch cards, drinks, and food at various venues on the Strip. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
He said that was his decision, not a smart baseball play. Like, shut up, Dave. Like, you know what I mean? Like, really. If Ohtani wants to steal third base on his own, let him steal third base on his own, bro. Like, he's Shohei Ohtani. He made the call. He was wrong. He was out. Okay. I wouldn't have called him out for it.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Multiple times on 18 today. It was just so wild. I mean, the distances, JJ hit it to the exact same spot. He had 30 feet, 36 feet, and 30 feet, and made the second playoff hole, the 30-footer there. And then they go to recut the hole.
Which I like. I like that, by the way.
Oh, I thought it was great, but I'm like, dude, he might hole out from the fairway. Like, he cut the hole where he's hit every single approach shot.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
What would you tell the people right now, though? Like, okay, I like the Rams ending into the season, but I'm not sure about Matthew Stafford because people want to get their bets in. People want their team totals. People want to bet week number 1 here. So what's your prognosis on the Rams? We'll talk long-term in a second. Week number 1. Are we just going to say, like, yeah, he's ready. Bullets are flying. He looks great out there because he's a tough dude. But again, a back injury for a quarterback trying to get all that torque on passes, usually not good.
The Early Line, only on
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. As we wrap up the show, we'll get back into the Milwaukee Brewers, who have a 12-game winning streak going. And in this day and age of NIL and college football and money being spent, somebody is stepping up really big to help out the University of Kansas. Let's get to that and a whole lot more as we wrap up this edition of the show. And I mentioned it's Wednesday. It's not. It's actually Thursday on this edition of SportsGrid's Last Licks. So it looks like this is the single biggest gift in the history of college sports. or at least that's what it appears to be. A gentleman, an investor by the name of David Booth, who's from the Lawrence, Kansas area, is committing, get this, $300 million in donations to the University of Kansas. $300 million. For a couple of $100 million more, this guy could build a brand new football stadium. That's a big amount of money there. So, look, Kansas, the Jayhawks have always been really good in college hoops. They've been, up and down a little in football. I think that's fair to say. But in this day and age, that's what really matters. It's, sort of a sad state of affairs. I'm all for college players being paid, by the way. So I'm good with that. But whoever is really donating the most money in this crazy world of NILs and spending money on kids and players and facilities, this is going to be huge for the University of Kansas. Probably Kansas State right now is thinking, oh my gosh, like, what are we going to do? It's possible. Maybe University of Missouri across the way also thinking the same thing. So David Booth, $300 million in Lawrence, Kansas renovations for their football program, and I'm guessing basketball program and other things that go on there as well. All right, now let's get to the latest in Major League Baseball. In case you missed it, the Milwaukee Brewers are the hottest team in baseball. They've won 12 straight games. By the way, they do not play today. So they'll start up another series coming up this weekend. And with their win yesterday in the state of Wisconsin, winning their 12 straight wins, that means that the Brewers won free burgers for the entire state. Now, there's a diner chain by the name of George Webb. He made the promise in the 1940s, saying that the city deserved free burgers if the team would ever win 12 games in a row. So back in 1987 with Paul Molitor and Cecil Cooper and Ben Ogilvy and those people who you have no idea who I'm talking about because nobody was alive watching that show at that time, they did it back in 1987. They also did it back in 2018 when I believe that, if I'm not mistaken, I think that was Christian Yelich's MVP season. I think that they had an incredible year behind him having an MVP in 2018, and now they've done it again. So 12 straight wins, and anybody who goes to eat at this diner gets to eat a free burger. I'm guessing that they're going to be very, very popular here over the next few days or so, and who knows? They play at Cincinnati coming up this weekend. Maybe they'll make it 13 in a row. That's not lucky, by the way, 13. All right, let's cap it off here, our show. Jarren Duran, the focus of a lot of trade discussions with the Boston Red Sox. Really good player, all-star last year as well. Boston Red Sox have a very fun upcoming promotion. If you think you look like Jarren Duran, the Red Sox are wanting to talk to you because they're going to have a look-alike contest at Fenway Park coming up later this season, which is almost over, August and September. So look-alike contest for one of your better players. I guess the question becomes is, outside of simply putting on the jersey and the hat, like, you really got to look like him in order to win here. Now, if you win, I'm not sure exactly what you get, probably a pair of tickets or something like that. But get ready, folks, for those of you who live in the Boston area and you think you look like Jarren Duran, I would suggest putting that eye black on like he always has. And then show up at Fenway Park, stand outside, and congrats. I mean, is it a good thing to look like someone else? Like, do you feel like that's a positive thing? I don't know. I don't get a ton of that. People don't tell me I look like somebody else. So I don't know. Maybe is that good or bad? I don't know how you feel about that. Okay, we'll leave you with that here on this edition of the show. We had a lot of guests on the program here, and want to thank them all for coming on. Do we have enough time for me to thank anybody? I'm not sure. But Kirk Badenhauser was on the show. Manny Navarro was on the program. Matt Lutovsky was on the show as well. Robert Linehan. Did I get everybody? I think we may have had one more that I'm forgetting. Also, Josh Graham covering Carolina football. Thank you very much, Frank. Also want to let you know you can download the SportsGrid app, take out your phone, and scan this QR code that's coming on your screen right now. Available for iOS and Android. It'll help you stream our programs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Thanks to our director, Luke. For my producer, Frank, I'm Craig Mish. We'll wrap up the week of NewsWire tomorrow at 12 p.m. Eastern on our next edition of the show. Until then, have a great night, everyone. I will see you tomorrow at noon.